I thought I found the love of my life, until a simple prenup exposed her true intentions. What happened next shattered my illusions and saved my future. Here's how one document revealed everything. I met Rachel in a coffee shop in downtown Seattle. I was 34, recently promoted to senior partner at a mid-sized law firm, and finally feeling like I had my life in order. She was 28, working in marketing, and had this effortless charm that made people want to be around her. I wasn't looking for anything serious at the time, but she had a way of making things feel easy, natural. We started seeing each other regularly, and within 6 months, we were living together. At first, everything was great. She was attentive, supportive, always interested in my work. She'd ask questions about my cases, listen when I vented about clients, and even started reading legal thrillers to understand my world better. I thought I'd found someone who genuinely cared about me, not just the lifestyle I could offer. I'd dated women before who seemed more interested in my income than my personality, so I was cautious. But Rachel seemed different. We traveled together, spent weekends in Napa, took spontaneous trips to New York. She loved the finer things but never asked for them. That's what made it feel safe. I was the one booking the hotels, choosing the restaurants, buying the gifts. She never demanded anything. That made me trust her more. I started thinking about marriage seriously for the first time in years. About a year into our relationship, I brought up the idea of a prenup. It wasn't a romantic conversation, obviously, but I approached it as practically as I could. I told her I'd had a few bad experiences before, and that given my assets, my condo, my investments, my stake in the firm, I needed to protect myself. I said it wasn't about her, it was about being responsible. She smiled, nodded, and said she understood. That was it. No drama, no pushback. I remember thinking, this is why I love her. She gets it. But things started changing after that. Subtly at first. She stopped asking about my work. She became more focused on her own career, which I supported, but there was a shift in tone. She started talking about leveling up and building her brand. She began posting more curated photos on Instagram, tagging luxury brands, talking about manifesting abundance. I didn't think much of it at first. Everyone's entitled to evolve. Then came the wedding planning. She wanted a destination wedding in Tuscany. I said we should keep it simple, maybe something local with close friends and family. She looked disappointed but didn't argue. A week later, she sent me a PDF with a breakdown of costs for a villa in Florence, catering, decor, and a videographer who specialized in cinematic love stories. The total was just under $120,000. I told her it was too much. She said, it's a once-in-a-lifetime moment. Don't you want it to be perfect? I started feeling uneasy. Not because of the money, but because of how she framed everything. It wasn't about us anymore. It was about the image, the optics, the experience she could showcase. I suggested we revisit the prenup before finalizing anything. That's when the mask slipped. She got quiet. Not angry, just cold. She said, I thought we already agreed on that. I said we had, but I wanted to make sure everything was clear. I told her I'd added a clause about post-marital earnings and intellectual property, just to be safe. She stared at me for a long time and said, so you don't trust me? I tried to explain that it wasn't about trust, it was about clarity. She didn't yell or cry. She just walked out of the room and didn't speak to me for 2 days. When she finally did, she said she needed time to think. I gave her space. A week later, she came back with a counterproposal. She'd had a lawyer look at the prenup and wanted several changes. She wanted a guaranteed monthly stipend in case of divorce, regardless of fault. She wanted access to my retirement accounts. She wanted half of any future bonuses or profit sharing from the firm. I was stunned. I asked her why she thought she was entitled to that. She said, because I'm investing my life in you. That has value. That phrase stuck with me. Investing my life. It sounded transactional. Like I was a stock she was betting on. I told her I couldn't agree to those terms. She said she couldn't marry someone who didn't see her worth. I said I did see her worth, but I wasn't going to sign away my future based on emotional leverage. She moved out 2 days later. I didn't hear from her for a month. Then I got a text, I hope you're happy protecting your money. You lost something real. I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say. I wasn't angry. I was disappointed. Not just in her, but in myself, for not seeing it sooner. Looking back, there were signs. The way she talked about her exes, always framing herself as the victim. The way she lit up when someone mentioned money or status. The way she curated her life like a brand. I wanted to believe she was different. I wanted to believe I wasn't just another mark. But the prenup revealed everything. Not just her intentions, but her worldview. She saw relationships as investments, people as assets, love as leverage. I don't think she was evil. I think she was pragmatic in a way that felt cold to me. Maybe she really did love me in her own way. But it wasn't the kind of love I could build a life on. I spent the next few months reevaluating everything. My values, my boundaries, my blind spots. I talked to friends, read books, even saw a therapist. I wasn't heartbroken, I was disillusioned. There's a difference. Heartbreak is personal. Disillusionment is structural. It makes you question the whole system. And that's what I did. I started questioning how we define love, partnership, commitment. I started wondering how many people are in relationships for the wrong reasons, and how many of them never get the wake-up call I did. The prenup wasn't just a legal document. It was a mirror, and what I saw in it changed everything. After Rachel left, I didn't date for a while. I wasn't bitter, just cautious. I needed time to recalibrate. I focused on work, spent more time with my nephews, took up hiking again. I started cooking for myself instead of ordering out. It's strange how solitude can feel like a relief when you've been living in someone else's emotional economy. About 6 months later, I ran into Rachel at a charity gala. She was with a tech entrepreneur, younger than me, flashier. She looked radiant, polished, like she'd stepped out of a lifestyle magazine. We made eye contact briefly, but neither of us approached. I watched her from across the room, laughing, posing for photos, holding court. She was in her element. I felt nothing. Not anger, not longing, just clarity. That night, I went home and reread the prenup draft. Not because I missed her, but because I wanted to understand what I'd missed. I looked at the clauses she'd objected to, the ones she tried to renegotiate. It wasn't just about money, it was about control. She wanted guarantees, safety nets, leverage. She wanted to make sure that no matter what happened, she'd come out ahead. That's not love. That's strategy. I started thinking about how many relationships operate like that. Quiet negotiations, unspoken expectations, emotional transactions. People don't always say what they want, they position themselves to get it. Rachel was just more direct than most. She didn't hide her ambition. She just wrapped it in romance. I talked to a few friends about it, guys who'd been through divorces, custody battles, financial ruin. One of them, Mark, told me his ex-wife had waited until he got a promotion before filing for divorce. Another, James, said his wife had insisted on joint ownership of his business, then walked away with half when things went south. These weren't bitter men, they were just tired. Tired of being blindsided by people they thought they knew. It made me wonder, how do you really know someone? Is it time? Shared experiences? Crisis? I used to think love was enough. That if someone said they cared and acted like they did, that was all the proof I needed. Now I know better. Love is not a feeling, it's a pattern. It's how someone behaves when there's nothing to gain. It's how they respond to boundaries, to limits, to the word no. Rachel couldn't handle no. Not when it interfered with her vision of the future. And that's what exposed her. The prenup wasn't a trap, it was a filter. It separated the idea of love from the reality of it. And once I saw the reality, I couldn't unsee it. A few months later, I met someone new. Her name was Claire. She worked in nonprofit development, had a dry sense of humor, and didn't care about designer labels. We took things slow. I told her about Rachel early on, not as a warning but as context. I told her I'd insist on a prenup if things ever got serious. She nodded and said, "Makes sense." No drama. No defensiveness. Just understanding. We dated for a year before I proposed. Small ceremony, local venue, 30 guests. I drafted a prenup, sent it to her, and she signed it without edits. She said, "I'm marrying you, not your portfolio." That's when I knew I'd found someone real. It's been 3 years now. We have a modest home, 2 dogs, and a rhythm that feels honest. Claire doesn't post curated photos or talk about manifesting. She talks about impact, community, and shared goals. She doesn't need me to be her provider, she needs me to be her partner. And that's what I always wanted. Looking back, I don't regret Rachel. She taught me something I couldn't have learned any other way. She showed me what happens when love is confused with entitlement. When affection is used as currency. When commitment is conditional. I tell my friends now, don't be afraid of prenups. They're not about distrust, they're about transparency. They force hard conversations early, before emotions cloud judgment. They reveal priorities, values, and intentions. And sometimes they reveal things you'd rather not see, but need to. Rachel wasn't a villain. She was a mirror. She reflected a part of the dating world that most people ignore until it's too late. I was lucky. I saw it before I signed my life away. And because of that, I found something better. Something real. So no, I don't hate her. I thank her. Because her reaction to that contract didn't just reveal her nature, it revealed mine. And that's what saved me. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this.